It was a Tuesday morning like any other, but for Elena, it felt like the weight of the city was pressing down on her shoulders. Her shift at the opulent St. Regis Hotel in New York City started before dawn, a time when the streets were still empty and the promise of a new day felt like a cruel joke. Elena was a maid, a quiet presence in a world of bustling power brokers and high-profile executives. She moved through the corridors like a ghost, her uniform blending into the background as she refilled coffee carafes and arranged pastries on silver trays. She was invisible, and she had long ago accepted it. But today was different. A massive storm was brewing outside, the kind that made the city's skyscrapers groan. The air was thick with static, and the sky was a bruised purple-gray. Inside, the atmosphere was even tenser. A delegation of powerful visiting directors from across the country was meeting on the 45th floor, their voices a low hum of ambition and impatience. Elena was in the control room, a small, windowless space that monitored the building's infrastructure. Her job was simple: keep the coffee flowing and the room tidy. The storm hit with a vengeance. Rain lashed against the windows, and the wind howled like a banshee. Suddenly, a flash of blinding white light illuminated the city, followed by a deafening boom. The entire hotel plunged into darkness. A collective gasp echoed through the floor, followed by the panicked murmur of the directors. In the control room, the emergency lights flickered on, casting long, distorted shadows. An alarm blared, a shrill, insistent sound that made Elena's heart pound. A technician, his face pale with fear, frantically worked on a console. "It's the main grid," he yelled, his voice strained. "The entire block is out, and, oh God, it's a structural issue. The shaking, it's not the storm." The floor beneath their feet began to tremble, a deep, unsettling rumble that grew in intensity. The sound of glass shattering from the floors above was a terrifying symphony. The directors, all men of immense power and influence, were now just frightened people, their composure gone. They shouted orders, but there was no one to hear them. The technician, panicked, grabbed his bag and ran. "I'm sorry," he mumbled. "I have to get my family." Elena stood frozen for a moment, the room shaking around her. She looked at the monitors. The structural integrity indicators were flashing red, a warning of imminent collapse. She saw the schematic of the building, a complex maze of steel and concrete, and a single, terrifying thought crystallized in her mind. A key structural support column on the 45th floor was under immense stress, a consequence of the grid failure and the subsequent tremors. If it failed, the entire floor, and the directors with it, would come crashing down. There was only one way to stabilize it: a manual override located in a sub-basement. It was a long, dark walk. Her training told her to evacuate immediately. Her instincts told her to run. But something else, a deep-seated sense of duty and a quiet courage she never knew she had, took over. She looked at the frantic faces of the directors, their fear a raw, palpable thing. They were helpless, their world of power and control crumbling around them. Elena knew that if she didn't act, their fate was sealed. She took a deep breath, her hands trembling, and with a resolve born of pure adrenaline, she ran. She didn't have a plan, just a single desperate goal: to reach that override. The echoes of the shaking building were her only guide, and the fear in her heart was a constant companion. The maid, the invisible woman, was now the only one standing between the powerful and utter collapse. The descent into the sub-basement was a journey into the heart of darkness. With the power out, the stairwell was a pitch-black abyss, the only light coming from Elena's small, handheld flashlight. The beam danced nervously on the grimy concrete walls, illuminating dust motes that swirled in the heavy, humid air. Each step was a gamble. The building moaned and groaned around her, a constant, terrifying sound that made her question her sanity. The floor beneath her feet continued to shudder, each tremor a reminder of the fragility of the world she was trying to save. Elena's mind raced. She thought of her daughter, Isabella, a bright-eyed 6-year-old with a laugh that could light up a room. The thought of not seeing her again was a crushing weight, but it was also her driving force. She had to get back to her. She pushed the fear down, deep into a place where it couldn't paralyze her. She finally reached the sub-basement, a sprawling, labyrinthine space filled with the monstrous shapes of machinery. The air smelled of rust and damp concrete. Her flashlight beam cut through the darkness, searching for the manual override panel. The schematics she had seen in the control room were a blur, and the layout of the real thing was nothing like the orderly diagram. She stumbled through a maze of pipes and old equipment, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs. Just as she was about to give up, a flicker of light caught her eye. It was a small emergency light near a panel marked Structural Integrity Override. A wave of relief washed over her, quickly replaced by a new wave of panic. The panel was locked. A heavy padlock secured the cover, its rusty surface a symbol of a forgotten protocol. A key. She needed a key. But where would she find a key in this forgotten corner of the building? Tears of frustration welled in her eyes. All this way, all this risk, for a locked panel. The shaking intensified. The building was screaming now, the sounds of bending metal and cracking concrete unmistakable. She knew she was running out of time. She looked around, desperate. Her eyes fell on a fire extinguisher leaning against a wall. The metal was heavy, and it was a long shot, but it was all she had. With a surge of adrenaline, she swung the extinguisher, smashing it against the padlock. The first blow did nothing. The second blow, a wild swing born of sheer desperation, dented the metal. The third blow, a powerful strike that made her arm ache, finally broke the lock. The padlock snapped in two, and the cover flew open. Inside, a single heavy lever gleamed in the dim light. She didn't hesitate. She grabbed the lever with both hands and with all her strength pulled it down. The sound was a loud, metallic clank. For a terrifying moment, nothing happened. The shaking continued, a relentless assault on her senses. Then, slowly, the rumble began to subside. The screams of the building faded into a low hum. The stillness that followed was deafening. Elena slumped against the wall, her body trembling, a mixture of exhaustion and profound relief. She had done it. She had to get back up. But as she started to climb the stairs, she heard a sound. Not the sound of the building, but the sound of human voices. The directors. They had somehow made their way down, following the path she had blazed. They looked shocked, their faces smudged with dust, and their expensive suits torn. They saw her, a small, frail figure with a fire extinguisher in her hand, her maid's uniform dirty and torn. The silence was broken by the voice of the head director, a gruff, imposing man named Mr. Henderson. You saved us," he said, his voice laced with disbelief and a deep, unexpected gratitude. "How did you know what to do?" Elena just looked at him, too exhausted to speak. She was no longer invisible. She was the one who had saved them all. The aftermath of the storm was a strange, surreal experience. The city was a patchwork of darkness and light, with some blocks still without power and others miraculously spared. The St. Regis, thanks to Elena's quick thinking, was one of the latter. News of her heroism spread like wildfire. The maid who saved the day. The story was everywhere, from local news channels to national headlines. Suddenly, the quiet, invisible woman was a hero, a symbol of courage in the face of disaster. Elena's life was turned upside down. She was no longer a ghost in the hallways. People stopped her, wanting to shake her hand and thank her. The hotel staff, who had always seen her as just another employee, now looked at her with newfound respect and admiration. Mr. Henderson and the other directors made it their mission to thank her publicly, organizing a small ceremony in the hotel's opulent ballroom. As she stood on the stage, the bright lights of the news cameras blinding her, Elena felt a sense of unease. She wasn't comfortable with the attention. She was just a maid. All she had wanted was to go home to her daughter. The applause and the praise felt alien and overwhelming. Mr. Henderson, with a genuine smile on his face, presented her with a large check and a scholarship for her daughter's education. He called her the Lady of Ashes, a name that captured the image of her emerging from the dusty, chaotic sub-basement. The money was life-changing. It was a chance for a new beginning, a way out of the constant worry and struggle that had defined her life. But the attention was a different kind of burden. She was no longer just Elena. She was the hero. And with that title came an expectation she wasn't sure she could live up to. She felt like an imposter, a simple maid playing a part she didn't understand. The real change came from an unexpected place, her daughter, Isabella. When Eleanor got home, Isabella was sitting on the couch, watching a news report about her mother. Her eyes were wide with awe and pride. "Mommy," she whispered, "you're a real superhero." It wasn't the news reporters or the powerful directors that made Elena feel like a hero. It was her daughter's pure, innocent belief in her. In the weeks that followed, Elena began to navigate her new reality. She decided to use the scholarship money not just for Isabella, but to go back to school herself. She realized that she had always been more than just a maid. She was a problem solver, a quick thinker, and a person with an unwavering sense of duty. The disaster had stripped away the layers of her quiet existence and revealed a strength she never knew she possessed. She spoke with Mr. Henderson, thanking him for his generosity, and told him about her plans to study engineering. He smiled, a genuine, warm smile that was a world away from the cold, businesslike demeanor she had seen before the disaster. "You have a great mind, Elena," he said. "The world needs people like you." The Lady of Ashes was a hero, not because of a single act of bravery, but because she had chosen to seize the opportunity born from that moment. She was no longer invisible. She was seen, heard, and respected. The storm had shaken the city, but it had also brought a quiet woman to the forefront, giving her the chance to build a new life, not just for herself, but for the daughter who saw her as a superhero. The ashes of the old life were the foundation for the new, and Elena was ready to build.